It's trash. It's shit. I don't fucking deserve this. How is it not there? This is not going to happen again. Count your days.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the Last Night Was Literally a Movie podcast. I'm your host Naomi.
And I'm your host 𝚑𝚑𝚅.
And in today's episode, we're going to be talking about some 70s period pieces.
Naomi, what are the 70s period pieces that we're going to be talking about today?
So we're going to go in chronological order, and the chapters will be down in the description if they're not showing up on the screen for some reason. We're going to start off with Boogie Nights, then we're going to go to Slums of Beverly Hills, and Licorice Pizza. So we do have 2 PTAs on this list, and we do have some hot takes here and there on both of them.
Yeah, so we're going to be talking about Licorice Pizza last, so make sure to stick around until then, because I have some choice words for Paul Thomas Anderson when we talk about that movie.
So we did choose these kind of just based on what we've seen and liked, I guess, or wanted to talk about in a more long form way. But actually something we noticed is a lot of these are from the 90s, and there's even more that we're not talking about that are from the 90s too. So I just thought that was really interesting.
There's so many from the 90s, and 90s back to 70s wasn't that long. 90s back to 70s is kind of like now back to the 2000s. And we've discussed this. It's about time we start making 2000s period pieces.
Yeah, and just have it completely disgustingly Paris Hilton, Kim Kardashian.
Awful, disgusting. Yes. We need jeans on skirts. We need all of the above, really.
Yeah, we'll make sure to insert some of our favorite 2000s fits just to show you guys what we mean. And maybe if there's any filmmakers watching this, you guys should probably get on that.
Yeah, you guys should probably get on that. The first movie on this list might be one of the most iconic 70s period pieces out there. An incredible piece of media known as Boogie Nights.
I've heard this movie described as the 70s unzipped, and I just love that.
That's really funny because it's a pun. And if you like puns, get ready. Boogie Nights is a 1997 movie by Paul Thomas Anderson. It's a coming-of-age story about Dirk Diggler, a newcomer to the scene, and the people around him as he figures out his place as an up-and-coming porn star.
I think this is the peak of Paul Thomas Anderson. It's my favorite movie of his by far. I haven't seen There Will Be Blood because I hate older period pieces, pre-60s maybe. I don't know. I just can't get into them.
Yeah, if your American accent sounds different than my American accent, you're too far back.
Yes, agreed. I just think they're boring, but I mean, if it's by him, I'm willing to watch it. And then I think there's one other one I haven't seen from him, but I don't remember. But yeah, I think this is his best one out of the ones that I have seen. Probably just because of the cast, and I love how many different stories we get to see from all these characters. I really love Heather Graham and Julianne Moore, and they're my favorite characters in this.
I think one of the reasons why this is I really like this movie is because it's so wholesome in such a unique way. It's not wholesome in Disney movie type way. It's people doing and making questionable decisions, but it all works out in the end because at the end of the day, they're still wholesome people. This is literally a Disney movie, except instead of this is Camp Rock, except instead of going to Camp Rock, they're making porn.
Literally, oh my god, yeah. And all the endings are just so sweet, and it's oh my god, this movie is so sweet, and you would never see it coming if you hear what it's about.
Know. And Roller Girl, can we talk about it?
We can. She's by far the best character. Also, she invented the blank stays on during sex meme format.
She literally did. Oh my god. Oh my god. The roller skates staying on during every action she takes in this movie is the most iconic thing ever.
Heather Graham is just the most stunning girly, and I will never get over her beauty, especially as Roller Girl.
Just like the smooth, I think we need more people on roller skates in movies, because the smooth movement of rolling around on smooth floor is just so satisfying to watch. I love it with my whole heart.
I think Paul Thomas Anderson is really good at making like really quirked up characters like that. Like, just he adds a little spice to all of them, and I really like that about him. I think this is the best opening scene for any of the movies that he's made. I just love the like spinny camera when they walk into the club and everyone's just like having fun, and we get to meet all the characters and we're just like going around all of them. I just loved how that looked.
It is, I think, one shots like that I think are really good to kind of convey a big like action and a big atmosphere. If it's like one shot like in 1917, you know, fuck off and die, I don't care. But if it's a one shot like that where it establishes mood and it establishes characters and there's like purpose to it and it's actually fun, like that's awesome.
It's so fun, and it definitely establishes the mood of the rest of the movie. And
it does do that same kind of one shot a few more times throughout the movie, but it's only when like introducing new things. And it's just like a really nice way to introduce new things by giving a tiny little picture of one like set of characters interactions and then sliding on over to another set of characters interactions, like they do it again at the pool scene. And that's so awesome. That's so nice.
It gives us that vibe of like kind of a found family thing where it's going around and showing us everyone at all these events that is like a big group, and they're like always constantly together and they see each other more as family than just friends or coworkers.
Yeah. And speaking of found family, Naomi, do you know what movement was going on in cinema around the 90s?
New queer cinema.
This is literally a new queer cinema movie. And because like look at that,
there's one gay
there's
character.
A gay man in there.
Yes.
And
Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Honestly, that's like one of the most accurate portrayals of gay people. Maybe not for the 90s, but definitely for right now. Like
yeah.
Every single...
It hits too close to home.
Every single queer teen in middle school and high school, that's them. That's them right there.
I think it also kind of touches on how the sex work industry kind of preys on vulnerable young people who have like difficult family situations, and that kind of goes with the found family thing. Obviously, I respect sex work and everything about it, but it does kind of have that predatory aspect. But at the same time, in this movie, we're not meant to like hate Jack Horner, who's going out recruiting these people, because it's just a part of that like system, and he takes care of them, and it becomes that found family thing, which is something that they need. But at the same time, we see the repercussions of that throughout the movie.
I think it kind of shows that, where at the beginning when he meets Mark Wahlberg and he has Roller Girl and all these different people, they become that found family. But after the falling out and then he has to go find new people, that's where you kind of see the more predatory side, where he's being just predatory and he's not caring. After Dirk walks off the set, you know, he finds, you know, a new guy to replace him, and it just like he loses that care and that passion. And that's when you see Roller Girl and the mother start to like kind of fall deeper into this, into drug abuse. And then like that care and that family starts to wane until they all like come back together and realize how important, you know, that little family unit was.
I don't think that was necessarily my interpretation. Like, when Dirk leaves the set, it's because he feels like he's being replaced, but I think Jack still has that place for him there, and he still wants him to stay. But I think it's at a point where he's like gone way too far into the same thing, the drug abuse, and just like not taking care of himself at all, to where he has to leave. And then when he comes back, I think that care is still there. And I think that downhill spiral kind of goes along with another theme in this movie, which is kind of how in the 70s we saw a transition from like porn being like kind of a more artistic thing, like being a part of a movie, rather than it being like just a VHS thing. And the whole thing is like, this is the transfer from that to that. So kind of Jack Horner's inner conflict is that he's trying to compete with that and, stay relevant and still make money for the people that he cares about, which is why he kind of has to start replacing the people that were in the movies. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It also covers topics like gay bashing, sexual assault, and misogyny, which were all very common at the time.
I would not expect this movie to tackle gay bashing. Like,
I know.
It feels so, it's so weird, especially like, I don't know, because like Paul Thomas Anderson, I don't feel like is a queer cinema type person, yet he still has like the insight and the empathy for that in the 90s too.
Yeah, I think it's really cool that he's able to portray those things without it coming off as like,
I hate the queers.
Well, no, not that. Like without it coming off as like stereotyping or patronizing in any way. It was more like, it was just kind of an accurate portrayal. And it is that whole thing, like showing how ridiculous gay bashing is. Mark Wahlberg isn't even gay. He's just in a desperate situation where he needs to make money. And he ends up getting gay bashed for literally no reason.
Yeah, for like he got paid by some guy. I feel like that scene is so funny because some guy paid him to whack off and then just sat there and watched him. It wasn't like he paid him to whack off and then immediately, as soon as Mark took out his ween, they started beating him up. It was like I sat there and I watched this man
literally staring at it
gurk his ween for like 5 minutes, and then I decided to start killing him. Like, yeah, that's funny. Straight people are funny. Let's laugh at them. I think one of the funny things about this is how matter of fact it portrays, like, Jack directs the porn.
Yeah, it's so funny.
Funny.
Yeah, I think this also is very comedy-esque at certain points, but it's still overall a very serious movie.
Like the first scene that Dirk films with the mother, I forgot her name.
Julianne Moore, where it's camera squared off onto this little office scene and they just start going at it, and it's like there's no like, they don't use any angles, they don't get any like, it's just very matter of fact, and it's so funny. And the scene where John C. Reilly and Dirk Diggler are like running when they were doing that like spy movie was so funny. Oh my god, I love that part so much.
John C. Reilly and Dirk Diggler had the highest tension, highest homosexual tension,
biggest bromance,
homoerotic tension there, off the charts. It was peaking. It was all in the red, and I want it to be in the brown or something. I don't know what's more red than red.
Maybe that was kind of intended because of the whole gay bashing thing. Maybe that ties together, like them struggling with their sexuality.
Yeah, maybe if this movie was made today, Dirk would have a bisexual arc.
Maybe.
I'm down for that. Paul Thomas Anderson, the ball's in your court. Make a sequel to Boogie Nights. Make Boogie Nights 2, where John C. Reilly and Dirk Diggler make out. I think Mark Wahlberg would be down.
So apparently Mark Wahlberg said that I just always hope that God is a movie fan and also forgiving because I've made some poor choices in my past. Wahlberg said before adding that Boogie Nights is up there at the top of the list.
Well, I would say that Boogie Nights made his career.
What did you think about Mark Wahlberg asking God for forgiveness for Boogie Nights and calling it a poor choice that he made in life?
Oh my God, I think he should thank God for Boogie Nights.
Me too.
It made his career.
Yes.
Yeah, God, it's a great movie.
I think Mark Wahlberg should be pushed down a flight of stairs for that.
Is he the one that did a hate crime, or is that someone else?
You know, I wouldn't be surprised. He just seems like the kind of guy to do a hate crime. Now I'm just thinking about the scene in Transformers when some guy explains that he's actually allowed to date a minor because of Romeo and Juliet laws.
In Transformers? I don't remember that. Was it Megan Fox?
It was like a new character in one of the newer movies.
Oh.
And it's like iconic. I can't remember what it is though.
Okay. Mark Wahlberg racist hate crimes. The full list of actors. The full list of actors racially motivated attacks. Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Okay, Mark Wahlberg is officially insane, guys.
I didn't even know this.
Yeah, he's done multiple hate crimes, I'm pretty sure. So, yeah, he probably should be pushed down a flight of stairs at the very least.
Yeah. I think maybe even 2 stairs might be justifiable for
several flights of stairs.
Yeah. An undetermined amount of stairs he needs to be pushed down of.
He needs to be pushed down until a certain thing happens that we can't say on YouTube.
The last shot of this movie is also of Mark Wahlberg, and it's a very iconic shot.
So before you transition, I need to talk about how X literally stole like a lot from this movie.
They did steal a lot.
It's a 70s porn movie, so obviously they're going to be like at least a little bit similar, but they just directly stole some scenes from here. Mark Wahlberg goes, "I'm a star" or something while he's staring at himself in the mirror. Like,
I am a star. I'm a star, I'm a star, I'm a star. I am a big, bright, shining star.
I'm nothing like you. I'm a fucking star!
Y'all directly stole that and didn't say anything about it.
I mean, X still slays.
It's good, but this is obviously way better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, back to what I was saying. The more important thing. Mark Wahlberg, at the end of this movie, he has his little "I'm a star" speech, and then he pulls out his ween. And by God, that's no cock. That's an act of God. And it's most likely a prosthetic. And unfortunately, it's most likely a prosthetic. Just the way that the shot is constructed, it's probably fake.
And the astronomic
size, the proportions of this ween. It's probably fake. Unfortunately, I would have loved to see real Mark Ween, but I don't think that's what we got. And I think it also implies that Mark Wahlberg comes to a greater understanding of his body and of his ween at the end of this movie. And that's a very universal thing, to come to a greater appreciation of your body and of yourself, really. And that's kind of what this next movie is about. That's kind of what the Slums of Beverly Hills is all about.
Tether off, we gonna tether off the mother sucker. Tether off the sucker.
The Slums of Beverly Hills is a 1998 movie about Natasha Lyonne's boobs, made by Tamara Jenkins. It is a coming-of-age story about Vivian Abramowitz and her family as they move around Beverly Hills, struggling to stay afloat with what little they have.
They somehow made an entire coming-of-age movie about boobs, and it's perfect.
It's perfect. It really is. It opens with Vivian getting sized up for her first bra, and how uncomfortable she is with this. And then by the end of the movie, it wraps it all up so nicely in this incredible metaphor where she becomes comfortable with her boobs, and we love.
This is a much more subtle 70s movie. There's no like flashy jean flares or like coloring to suggest the time period it's set in. This makes it more timeless and enjoyable for like any mood you may be in. So I really like this one. And I love Natasha Lyonne. She definitely struggles throughout the movie to fit in with her all-male oddball family that is constantly moving around after her mom's passing.
Oh, so you read the IMDb?
No,
summary.
I wrote that.
Okay.
But yeah, after you didn't mention her mom dying, which is a very important detail.
Her mom dies, and that's, I think, her being surrounded by all of these men is probably one of the reasons that she's so uncomfortable with her body. But yeah, by the end, she has this incredible speech that's really funny, but also like really heartfelt.
Yeah. And then during the movie, her older cousin Rita comes to live with her family, and she finally has like a female role model to look up to, except
I don't think it's a role model.
She's not a great influence.
She's not that good of a role model. And who plays this Rita?
Aunt May, I don't know the actress's name.
Aunt May from Spider-Man, the new ones, plays Nurse Rita.
But yeah, I definitely see why she's uncomfortable because her brothers are like always talking about her boobs and her dad too.
And that's really weird, honestly.
Honestly, it's a little weird. Honestly,
don't talk about someone's body. TBH, can I get a like and a follow?
So the first instance that we kind of see this like uncomfortableness with her body is when her dad asks her to put on a bra with her halter top at this restaurant that they're at, and then she does, and it doesn't really change anything, and it just looks weird, and it's just this weird thing that we're like, okay, this is just going to be a passing thing in the movie, but then like stuff like that keeps happening. So she meets her neighbor at her first apartment, and she asks him about whether her breasts are too big, and he replies no. And then her brothers are constantly telling her to put on a bra when she's walking around the house. And then at one point, probably the heaviest scene in the movie. Actually, let me give a trigger warning real quick. There is going to be brief mentions of SA and family SA. So
yeah, skip ahead
if you do not want to hear about that, but we won't talk about it for long. At one point, her dad sexually assaults her cousin by fondling her breast, and she's clearly traumatized by this event, but she actually blames her cousin Rita, which shows how warped her view on like womanhood and consent is, like because of her being raised by all men in a time where women who came forward about sexual assault were like completely ignored.
Isn't that like the scene right before she goes to talk to the doctor about getting a breast reduction too? Yeah, she goes
to a consultation to get her boobs like completely removed, which is a crazy thing to do just out of nowhere, and she's obviously too young to do this, but she's just like very shaken up by this event. Some people consider the groping scene like offensive and annoying because they liked the dad in the movie otherwise. But honestly, what could be a more accurate portrayal of how sexual assault, especially like within a family, like just seems like it comes out of nowhere.
Yeah, I feel like that this out of nowhere portrayal seems so much more like realistic and vulnerable to me, because like we spent the whole movie kind of being with her dad and empathizing with him and like getting along with him, and then out of nowhere this just happens. And I think, you know, that's like in one part like really terrifying, because you know that's just how some people are in the real world. They seem normal, and then they'll just do these kind of very disturbing things.
Yes. I think it's like so effective in being serious, but like at the same time it's a very funny comedy.
Yeah, it's very light in a lot of parts, and then there are a few parts where it really just like, because most of the movie it doesn't really deal with that serious of a subject matter for most of it, but whenever it has to deal with it, it doesn't like try and translate that into this light comedic tone. You know, it knows when it's dealing with something heavy, and it respects like the gravity of some of these situations. Yeah. And I think that's like a very fine line to walk, having a comedy deal with very heavy situations like this, and it does it so well.
I think that's what makes a comedy like a really good movie, is if it like can also like be serious at points.
Yeah.
And I think this movie, the most of the time when you're watching it, you're like, oh, this is just a silly comedy. But then when that part comes, you kind of see like what this whole movie is about, and like how all of this stuff piles on to Vivian, and it just becomes this huge thing for her.
What do you think about how the movie deals with her dad after Vivian sees that?
I think it's probably the most realistic portrayal I've ever seen of something like that. Like at that time, you kind of just had to move on, and I'm so glad we're not at a time like that anymore, but I think it is very accurate.
Yeah, I think it's very accurate. It's kind of unsatisfying in a way, because like, you know, you see someone doing something fucked up, you want them to
pay for their actions.
Yeah, get some sort of penance, but we never get that. And like, while that is realistic, it feels like someone was deeply wronged.
Yeah.
and it's kind of uncomfortable to end the movie where everyone's getting along without, like, I don't know, dealing with that in a more public way. I guess I don't know if that's really a criticism, because that's just kind of how things were, but I think that's a thought that I have.
Yeah, I agree. I think even Rita didn't really fully accept what happened. Like, she kind of just wrote it off, even though she was the one getting blamed for something that happened to her, like, through Vivian. And I just think that's a very, like, nuanced and, like, complex way of showing this. Like, I really thought that it was a really smart thing to, like, show in a movie, because, like, we don't really often see that type of thing.
Yeah, and especially doing that in a comedy is very, like, intense of a tone switch, but once again, it handles it well. So this is a great movie. If you've never seen it, you should watch it, or else I'll bully you.
Very good. There is, even though it's more of a subtle 70s period piece, there's definitely some references to things that happened in the 70s.
One of the biggest referencers in this movie is Vivian's neighbor, a man named Elliot. He is constantly walking around in a t-shirt with a very interesting person, plastered onto it. Mr.
Charles Manson.
And
he's constantly talking about Spawn Ranch and all that stuff. Yeah, it's just a funny way to, like, reference that era and also just show how much of a weirdo he is.
It's a funny way to reference that era and also characterize him. Because I feel like, honestly, who's the modern day version of that guy? Like, who's the modern day Charles Manson that weird men appreciate?
The Freud fanboys.
The Freud fanboys, yeah. Who else? Freud wanted to fuck his mom, basically.
Yeah.
That was his whole deal. Kind of weird if you ask me, TBH, can I get a like and a follow? Comment below if you... How old is Mr. Elliot in this movie, Naomi?
I don't recall.
But I know it was not anywhere close to age 14.
He was, I think, over 18.
Yeah.
And then he was talking about, he directly references that after they hook up.
Yeah, they do get a little frisky in the back of his car, and it makes me very uncomfortable because he is a male manipulator and he male manipulates his way.
Literally, yeah.
And
ahead of its time, truly, with its male manipulatorness.
It is so ahead of its time with that.
And just everything.
Yeah, everything. It's like, it's so uncomfortable because it's like so sinister, yet it's so kind of normal. Like, he doesn't do he's not like aggressive. He's not like any like of these big actions. He's just like subtly kind of getting at
little
her.
Snake bitch.
Yeah, he's subtly the worst person ever, basically, is what I'm saying.
So you might notice a weird cut right here because we just found out this Spotify Wrapped came out and we're both a little bit upset. Celeste a lot more than me.
I'm fucking fuming, love! I'm so angry!
Understandable with your Wrapped.
It's trash, it's shit! I don't fucking deserve this!
Yeah, we're gonna have to turn that down quite a bit. So we're going to briefly talk about that for a second, and then you guys can skip if you don't care. I don't blame you.
Let me just read out to you my top artists, because it's an embarrassment. It is. I'm so angry. My top 5 artists are. We'll go from 5 to 1. 5, Doja Cat. Whatever. Mid. I wish it was someone else. Ariana Grande. Honestly, I don't care. She's a little better than Doja. She's better, but I still wish that they were someone else. Nicki Minaj. She can be there. Big boobs.
Speaking of Slums of Beverly Hills.
Beverly Hills. Tyler, the Creator, number 2. Sure, he should be lower. Somebody else should be at number 2. Number 1. I need you to sit down for this. I'm so mad. Number 1 is Kanye West. I'm gonna kill myself.
Wait, there's like, I just don't understand how that's possible.
I don't either. Like, genuinely. I mean, I do, because I had like a ton of songs of his liked for so long, and I just like don't unlike songs, and I just shuffle my liked songs all day. But like, oh my god, number 1, are you fucking kidding me? And I grinded so hard this past
Celeste
week.
literally tried to cheat on
No,
Spotify
I was
Rewind.
if I wasn't on my phone doing
Maybe-
something,
wait, maybe-
I was running Poppy, I was running Sophie, I was running Tyler, I was running Mitski.
Maybe it doesn't like. Maybe they're like putting it together so they don't take into account like the week before or something.
They should stop doing that. They should only take into account the week before.
Yeah.
I'm so mad.
Okay, my number 5 is MF Doom, Kanye West. At least he's not as high as on Celeste. And then I have Frank Ocean, Lana Del Rey, and Britney Spears. My top 3 are incredible, and I love number 5 too. My songs are not that bad. I wanted 𝚑𝚘𝚡𝚒𝚗𝚑𝚑 to be on one of my artists, but she's on my songs. I have Mirror, number 5, Paranoid by Kanye, number 4. Number 3 is History by 𝚑𝚘𝚡𝚒𝚗𝚑. Fantastic song. Why Should I Be Sad by Britney Spears, and Gasoline by The Weeknd. Not a clue how that happened, but I'm okay with it, I guess.
I'm also incredibly angry about my top songs, as you can probably guess.
Okay, Celeste, like, let me give you some context. They play Poppy to an obnoxious extent. We've done like an episode about her, and I was like, okay, Poppy's definitely going to be your number 1 artist.
She's not anywhere on my Spotify Wrapped.
It's insane.
Not once did she come up, and I've been grinding. There's a category for the song you played the most when you first heard it. When I first heard Breeders by Poppy, I played it like 19 times in a row. How is it out there? My top songs are number 5, Kiss Me More by Doja Cat and SZA. Okay. Number 4, Come to Life by Kanye West.
That's not good.
Number 3, Gimme Love by Joji. Whatever. Number 2, Out of Time by The Weeknd. And number 1, Moon by Kanye West. You know what, Spotify? I'm gonna moon you because I fucking hate you. Your app is garbage. Artists pay to get played more. Poppy should have fucking been there.
My listening personality, I just have to brag for a second. I got the early adopter. I don't even listen to music that much. I think my minutes was like 20,000 something. But yeah, I got early adopter, which says you've got your finger on the pulse of new music, always seeking out the next hot thing. If a song is trending, you're on it. So yeah, I'm okay with mine. I think it could have been better. I wish there was definitely a couple of different artists on there, you know. But overall, it's all right.
My total minutes listened to was 120,000 minutes, and that makes sense. But 14,000 of those minutes went towards Kanye West. I was in the top 0.05% of his listeners, and I unliked every single one of his songs, and I blocked him today. I'm not letting this happen again. 2023 Spotify Wrapped is going to be under my control, and I'm going to call it out right now. The 4 artists that are going to be on top: Poppy, Sophie, Mitski, and let's do Rico Nasty. No more will I be subject to the whims of Spotify. I'm taking fate in my own hands. These big pop artists who pay to get played more while you're just trying to randomly shuffle, fuck you. Poppy is getting there. I'm putting her there. If Poppy has millions of fans, I am one. If she has 1 fan, that's me. And if she has 0, I'm dead. This is not going to happen again. Spotify, count your days. Licorice Pizza is a 2021 American comedy film written and directed by Paul Thomas Anderson, a familiar name to anyone who has watched the whole way through, which you should have. You should be watching this from start to finish. If you're skipping around, go back to the beginning. It follows a 15-year-old actor named Gary and a 25-year-old woman named Alana. And their weird relationship And it's it's like a slice of life movie, a bit of coming of age movie, and I don't like it. It makes me uncomfortable. That's like a 10-year age gap. You're dating someone who, who does his homework when he gets home. Like, are you serious?
Agreed. Very weird.
This movie is weird as fuck.
Even weirder is the weirdly unrelated racism that's in this movie. Oh yeah,
that's another thing. This movie has some like classic like Asian racism in it.
I'm going to read you guys one of my friends on Letterboxd Review, Andy Schumann. I'll put it on screen too. I really liked what he had to say about this. I like to think this movie is from the perspective of Gary, hence why Alana is bizarrely attracted to this goofy literal kid. Hence why said kid can own a pinball arcade. Hence why the white dude talks to his wife in that horrible, cruel, fake Asian accent. Enjoyable movie, but can we get over the self-aware, provocative humor? To me, yes. The scene reminded me of how uncomfortable and bizarre racial stereotypes are, but is it worth people who will just find it funny, like the tens of thousands of Hollywood movies with nasty racial stereotypes? After hearing another white guy chuckle in the audience, I thought, does this guy think this is funny? Like funny? And then I realized that my pretentious, self-aware chuckle may have been heard by others who may be thinking the exact same thing about me. PTA is brilliant at spinning a tale, but fails hard at satire. Most do. It's hard. But I wish someone had told him not to do that. And I totally agree with that. I didn't really know like how to put that into words, but I thought that was really good.
Yeah, I feel like for very like not obvious stances like that, where it's very reasonable to assume that scene was made with like racial stereotypes and not like genuine thought. Like that's a very real possibility, and not making that clear in the movie, I think was a mistake. And like, honestly, whenever I see a movie, I want the director to be a smart person and to display things in like a sensible light. But honestly, like I can't even tell if that was even Paul Thomas Anderson's intention with that scene.
Yeah, it's very murky waters. And I think this movie like went over a lot of people's heads when it first came out for a different reason, like the whole age gap thing that the media was going crazy about. But I think the racism is much more of a issue in the film because there's kind of a lot of like weirdness around the relationship and moments where Alana realizes that it's wrong, and that's definitely like a stance there, but there's no stance on like the racism in it. It's just like played off as like a funny moment.
I mean, even like Alana feeling that it's wrong that she's like has this relationship with a 15-year-old kid, like I feel like that's not even really emphasized or like that's not really an element, really. I feel like this movie presents things that are like weird, but then doesn't take a stance on them.
I think it definitely took a stance. I disagree on that part, especially because like you want to like both of the characters, but they're so deeply flawed. And Gary is like more so just annoying and like too persistent for his own good, whereas Alana is very immature and aimless in her life, and she doesn't realize until she sees Gary and his friends acting immature. And she starts to question like why she's even friends with him. And I think I don't want the whole movie to be about how like weird and annoying it is. Like there has to be other things going on. And I think there's a lot of moments where you kind of question if this is right or not. And there's nothing like overtly sexual about their relationship.
Well, sometimes.
There's not. They kiss once at the end, which I don't like the ending. And I think there's
also that like that scene that was heavily marketed where Alana just comes into Gary's house and is like, "Do you want to see my boobs?"
Yeah, and it was just like stupidly marketed, I think.
Yeah, the marketing was bad, but the movie didn't really give them much to work with, in my opinion. I didn't like it.
I mean, I don't really love the movie, but I think it's better than a lot of people give it credit for, just because like their kind of judgment is clouded by that whole like age gap thing, which I get and I sympathize with, definitely. But I think it was still good, and I do think it took a hard enough stance against the age gap and portrayed them as people that we know, like the audience knows that type of relationship isn't okay. The media like frenzy about it proves that. So if we go into it knowing that, and we see all the times that it's condemned throughout, then we can like come out still liking it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think this movie has a lot of interesting things to offer and interesting ideas. And I think aside from the weird relationships and like the weird racism of it, it is like a fun movie.
Yeah.
I think like seeing Gary go on these little adventures and getting into all this, like all these businesses, it's fun to watch him do that and watch him just like fuck around and be 15 years old and be kind of stupid, but also kind of fun.
Yeah.
And
Alana is just like, she comes off as like a freak. So I get that people don't like it because like of the age gap, but I feel like she's portrayed as like a really like weirdo, like her stuffing her bra and like constantly embarrassing herself and just being like a cringe ass like around Gary. Like I think that's
her
enough.
stuffing her bra was so funny and weird.
Yeah.
Because it was like the worst I've ever seen. Like I feel like there's no way that anyone would just walk out of the bathroom and be like, this is okay. This is great.
Yeah. And I mean, at the time, like this was considered normal. So the fact that we're seeing like
this was considered normal?
Like age gaps, yeah.
Really?
People didn't give a shit back then.
Damn.
Yeah.
People were fucking weirdos back then.
Yeah. And then I mean, like it wasn't like a super, super common thing, but I mean, people didn't really care when they saw it.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense because like right now we're really like recently we've become super hypersensitive to weird online people grooming their fans.
Yeah. It's just become a much more like condemned thing widely.
Yeah, and it's become a lot more of a predatory thing because people have the means to seek it out.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel like in this movie, Alana did not seek out this relationship with a younger guy, but you know, these days,
yes,
like
there's people like that's the kind of thing I'm talking about too. Like she's not like obviously attracted to a younger person, but her immaturity and like lack of like self-awareness is what like brings her to Gary. And I think the movie is kind of smart about the way that it portrays them because like Gary is this guy who wants to be taken seriously as a businessman and like he tries to be super mature all the time, but then we see like glimmers when Alana's sitting on the curb and she sees him like messing around with his friends with the gas cans and she's like grossed out by it and like ew. And then she talks to her sister, is it weird that I hang out with Gary and his friends all the time? That whole thing. So I think it's kind of smart in that way.
Yeah, I agree.
The scene with like on the waterbed where he almost touches her and then he changes his mind, kind of smart, kind of not necessary at all.
Yeah, kind of not necessary at all.
Yeah.
It made me really uncomfortable to just see him kind of like hovering there, and then also even more uncomfortable for Alana to just be like
sitting there. Yeah.
Shit, I guess. Like, no, ew, stop.
Yeah. And then Alana like is screaming at him about like how immature and like, oh, I'm cooler than you and all this stuff. Like she's not supposed to be like a likable, like mature adult. We see why they're together. You know what I mean? And they're not even really together until the very end, which kind of just shows that the characters haven't changed at all, which is what kind of solidifies it as a slice of life movie for me. It doesn't have that typical like character development arc or whatever.
I mean, it still has these characters learning things throughout the movie, but it doesn't have like these big, massive changes in them. It just has these like subtle kind of growing up moments, more like realistic like that, I guess.
Yeah, but even after like Alana gets her job and stuff, and when she's with older men, like they always kind of infantilize her and like make her feel she's immature, you know? So we see that kind of push them back together again. Even after she gets the job, she's still like being weird and creepy all the time. Like I don't think she changed very much at all.
I think she did change a little.
In what way?
I don't know.
Okay.
I just get that vibe. I'm trying to be smart, but I'm still shook up by my Spotify Wrapped. I'm not over it yet. Please
Don't text me. Don't call me.
Yeah,
I'm too upset.
I'm too upset. Leave a comment. Show me your Spotify Wrapped in the comments.
Yeah, I actually do. Like if you guys have yours, I'm definitely interested to see everyone else's. I love looking at everyone's stories and stuff. But yeah.
Leave your Spotify Wrapped so I can judge you, but then I can also be like, oh, I can't judge anyone because my Spotify Wrapped is shit.
Okay, so let's rank these movies real quick.
Okay.
And then we'll give a little outro for you guys.
First up is the worst one, Licorice Pizza.
Licorice Pizza
No
for
one
both of
likes
us.
it. It's
It's okay.
It's mid.
I think it's good for a slice of life movie. Kind of smart, kind of dumb. Weird racism. Whatever.
I can't decide what 2 and 3 are gonna be for me right now.
Okay, so we're doing 3 next, right?
Yeah, because all the rest of the movies here are all like really good, and like I don't know what I want to put above another. I think I have it.
I think I have mine too. You go first.
Number 3, Slums of Beverly Hills.
Same for me.
Okay, so we have the rest locked in.
Mm-hmm.
I really like Slums of Beverly Hills.
You know what? This is interesting because you gave Slums of Beverly Hills 5 stars. And
I did?
I think so. And you gave Velvet Goldmine 4.
Well, opinions are muddy. Rankings.
You changed your mind
suck.
after
Yeah,
this?
I changed
Okay.
my mind.
Yeah.
Number 2 is Velvet Goldmine.
I love it. I think it has a great message. I think it's really cool storytelling. Not too referential like a lot of people think it is. I just love it dearly.
Yeah.
It's one of the most gorgeous things I've ever seen. Love the ode to like queerness and just all the beautiful things that happen in that movie.
Yeah. And number 1, of course, has to be
Boogie Nights.
Dirk Diggler,
Dirk
iconic.
Diggler. Roller
Roller
Girl.
Girl,
Iconic.
even more iconic.
The most iconic, if you will. Seeing her bash that frat dude's face in.
So satisfying.
Oddly
oh my
satisfying.
god, when she stomped on his fucking nose. Ugh.
Love.
This movie is iconic. It's 2 hours, and that makes me want to not
I think
like
it's like
it.
2.5. It's over 2 hours at least.
It's just so good.
It's like impossible not to like stare. Like I can't take my eyes off it.
I know.
It's so entertaining.
It's perfect.
It's perhaps
and
one
we
of the-
didn't even talk about the club owner. I love him.
Yeah, he is perfect, and this whole movie like is probably one of the most like longer, like over 2 hours movie that I actually find interesting the whole way through. Like every storyline is so interesting.
This movie deserves to be number 1 out of all of these.
Yes, Paul Thomas Anderson's best. If you disagree, let us know and tell me if I should watch There Will Be Blood, even though it's a period piece that I probably will hate. Oh, and Phantom Thread. That's the other one I was trying to think of. If I should watch it, comment down below if I won't be bored.
Yeah, and also make sure to like the video and subscribe and comment your Spotify Wrapped. And also, if you don't listen to Spotify, if you listen to Apple Music, fuck off. I don't want to talk to you.
Unsubscribe. No, I'm kidding. Don't.
Yeah, I don't think you have the ability to unsubscribe because we only have 23 subscribers, but whatever.
Put on the bell if you're feeling crazy.
Yeah, if you're feeling crazy, look at the graph. We don't have a graph yet, I don't think, actually.
What graph?
The graph with like subscribed versus not subscribed viewers.
Oh.
I don't think we get that until we're like actually important.
Okay. Anyways, thank you guys so dearly much for watching. Sorry about Celeste's little tantrum. It'll be all right. We'll see you guys next week. Thank you for watching.
Last night was literally a movie
podcast. Bye, guys.
Bye.